Hello, good morning. It's Monica from Life is Art, and this is the Friday 10 a.m. technique at the Cruise the Nile online crop. And we started yesterday working on a travel mini album. And so today's video is part 2 in the series. We are going to be looking at pages and pockets, and yeah. Um, Gonna cough for a second. Hopefully this is the last time, but I'm sure it won't be. There we go. I'm under the weather a bit and have a cough. And so it just keeps cropping up during the crop. Hey, Deborah, nice to see you're watching. Good morning, good morning. Yes, Deborah got her cover already yesterday. So this is what we worked on our previous video. So this is the cover to our travel mini album. We put the cover and the hinge together, and we're using the featured collection for the month of April. Pardon me, which is the Let's Travel or Let's Go Anywhere. And so we're going to continue on today. The first thing I want to do is it's really handy in a small album like this that you might consider taking along on your trip, is to have some pockets that you can tuck ephemera in. I know we think of ephemera as, die cuts and things that we buy in a pack from the store, but ephemera technically are all of the little bits and bobs that you pick up along the way in life's journey. And so it's, tickets to events and postcards from places you've been, receipts, little maps, brochures, all those kinds of things. So in an album that you're going to take with you, it's nice to have a little pocket here and there that you can tuck all those little bits in and keep track of them. So in order to make a couple of pockets on the inside of the front cover, we're going to need 2 pieces of cardstock. I'm using Sapphire, which is one of the coordinating colors for this Let's Go Anywhere collection, and I have 2 different sizes here. The first one is 7 inches by 6 inches. So 7 inches wide, 6 inches deep, tall, and then 7 by 3.5. So 2 pieces. Oh dear. And we're going to treat them about the same. So we're going to need to do some scoring. We're going to start with our larger piece first. So I'll move this one aside. So this is the 7 by 6 inch. I'm going to just line it up here on the Versamat. And what we want to do is we want to score a 1/2 inch around 3 sides. We're going to have this as the top of our pocket. So we're going to score a 1/2 inch on the left side, a 1/2 inch on the bottom, and a 1/2 inch on the right. So let's start with our 1/2 inch on the left. Line ourselves up and score. And then we're going to do 1/2 inch on the right and score. And then I'll turn it 90 degrees and do the 1/2 inch on the bottom as well. So just line everything up. And we're going to score 1/2 inch on this bottom one. Just like that. Okay, so we've got all those score lines. Now, where those score lines intersect in these bottom corners, so we have, let me see if I can catch it in the light. We have a little tiny square in each of these bottom corners. Do you see that, where this intersects? So what we want to do is we want to take our scissors and we want to not cut directly on the score line. We're going to taper because this center long section is going to be our tab. So we, instead of cutting straight on the score line, we're going to taper like so, about a 45-degree angle, and snip to the intersection where those 2 score lines meet. And then we're going to come from this side, and instead of snipping right on the score line, we're going to snip at a 45-degree angle. And that kind of creates a little right angle triangle that we're going to cut off. Okay, so you can either do it that way, where you snip in towards the top, or you can start at one side, get the angle that you want, the 45-degree angle, and just trim all the way across. So we're mitering the corners, just like we did on the cover. And then what we want to do is we want to crease down all those score lines. So we're going to fold them with the bump side to the inside. So the side that you scored on is the dip side, and the back side is the bump side. So we're just going to fold on all those and crease them nicely with our bone folder. And if we did our corners right, we should kind of have, this side worked out a little better. You see how the corner just meets, just like a picture frame, right in the corner. So this one's a little off, but that's okay. If we wanted to, we could try to fix it, but I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, so that's our first pocket. So that was the 7 by 6 inch one. Now we're going to set that aside for a second, and we're going to bring in the smaller piece, which is the 7 by 3.5. And we're going, sorry. And take a sip of water. Woo. Trying to keep the coughs away. And we're going to do the same scoring. I see Deborah's watching. Good morning, good morning. And my mom is here too. Good morning, Mom. If you're joining me live, you can say hello or howdy. And if you're watching later on replay, you can say replay or just leave a comment. So we're going to do the same process. We're going to score on the left side, the right side, and the bottom. So 1/2 inch in on the left side, half an inch in on the right side. Turn it 90 degrees because it's always easier to score vertically. At least I find it is. How about you? Do you score horizontally or vertically? I think most people do vertical because your arm just goes that way. And then 1/2 inch on the bottom. I'm going to set that aside for a moment or two. And then we're going to do the same thing in these bottom corners where we've created a little square with the intersecting score lines. We're going to create a 45-degree angle. So instead of cutting straight on that score line, we're going to tip 45 degrees and snip all the way across and create that nice angle. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to turn it right around. Cut across. And you want to make sure that you're not cutting into this large rectangle here. We're only cutting just grazing it. We don't want to have weird corners when we're all done. When it's all said and done. We don't want weird gaps in our pockets. When you get a hole in your pocket, that's when things fall out. So again, we're going to fold everything to the bump side. So fold all the tabs back to the back side. Crease them down nicely. And there we go. Okay, now I'm going to actually open these back up. So this is the front side of our pocket. We're going to add some adhesive to this. So let's add some adhesive on all of these flaps. And I'm going to put enough adhesive to cover the whole flap. Adding it on there. We're also going to use some liquid glue insurance. Whenever you have things that might be under a little bit of stress, like if you put lots of ephemera in these pockets, or lots of little notes to yourself, or things that you gather along the way, you want to make sure they're good and sturdy. We're going to bring in the other pocket. We're going to open up those flaps. The only reason I'm opening them back up is it's just easier to put the adhesive on. So again, this is the front side of the pocket. Just adding adhesive on all of these tabs. 1/2 inch tabs. All the way around. Oops. Got a little more than I bargained for there. Just stick it on. And there's my end. And one more tab. Again, you could use red tape for this, score tape, all that kind of stuff. Just want to make sure it's good adhesive. But like I said, we're going to add some liquid glue insurance. So let's bring in our cover. Now, we want to make sure that we've got our cover going the right way. If you recall from yesterday, the join of our cover paper is right along here, and that is the back side. So we want to make sure it's on the back, and then we're going to open it up and we're going to work here on the inside of the front cover. Okay, and we're going to start with our largest pocket first. Let me see. Yes, okay, we're going to take the adhesive off the bottom. Just trying to remember all the steps. Adhesive off the bottom first. Make sure none of it's hanging over. And like I said, we're going to have some liquid insurance. My bottle's getting low. And especially because we can get into those corners with the liquid glue. Like that. We don't want so much that it's going to smush and stick our pocket closed. But we want enough to make sure it's going to stay where it's supposed to be. You can kind of push your little hinges over to the side a bit. All right, now this is going to be centered. I'm going to just tuck those two flaps in like that. And this is going to be centered at the bottom of the page. So I'm going to use my fingers here just to lift this flap up. So the gluey bit is down. And we're going to center it from side to side on the left or the inside front cover. We're going to leave a little bit of space at the bottom so that some of that green pattern paper is showing. And we're just going to stick it down. You can even fold it open now, or open it up, not fold it open. Unfold it and just give it a really good amount of pressure. The bottom of your pocket is going to take some wear and tear, and the sides too, but you don't want things falling out the bottom. All right, now that we've got that one done, we can remove the adhesive. Sorry, I'm way off the screen here. We can remove the adhesive from the sides, and we're going to do both sides at the same time. There we go. Make sure we haven't got adhesive hanging over where it shouldn't. Remove that. If I can get a hold of it. And then again, we got our liquid just to make sure it gets into all the corners here. Now this time we're not going to be able to open it back up to check on anything. So just try not to put so much glue that it smooshes. But enough that it sticks. There we go. Okay. So now what we want to do is we want to lift this up, 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 up. And we're going to push in these sides. You see what I'm doing? We're pushing these to the back. And then we're just going to lay this down. And stick it down. There we go. Pocket one complete. I got a little bit crooked, but it's not terrible. All right, now pocket number 2. Same process. We're going to remove the adhesive from the bottom of the pocket first. Just like that. Make sure nothing's hanging over so our pocket doesn't glue itself closed. Add some liquid insurance. do. Alrighty. Now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to lift this little tab up so the adhesive is towards the back side, and we're going to line it up at the bottom of that first pocket. So we're just lining it up right in the exact same place. And we're going to stick it down. Look at that, I got glue on my fingers. We can open it up and make sure it's stuck down good. Deborah, are you crafting along or are you just watching? All right, now we can go ahead and remove the adhesive from our sides. Scooch those out of the way. Remove this adhesive. Deborah says she's watching and taking notes. Excellent. It's always a good idea to watch, because then if I make a mistake, you'll know not to do what I just did, right? Okay, let's add some liquid glue. Deborah has learned from watching me do things before that sometimes I require taking things back off and trying again. She's smart that way. All right, we've got our glue. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to push those tabs, fold them to the inside, and then we lay our pocket down. And now we have a double pocket on the inside of our cover. Now, because that's freshly stuck down, I don't want to be too rough, but we've got two pockets, one tall one, one shorter one, so lots of places to tuck things in. Our next step is we want to add our pages onto our hinge. So for our pages, I'm going to use some Toffee cardstock, again, another coordinating color with this Let's Go Anywhere collection, and there's 4 of them. So I have 4 pieces, and they are 6 inches by 8.5. Just going to take a sip of water while you write that down. So 6 inches by 8.5. Deborah says, I like that you're not perfect. It makes me feel better. Yep. We all do the mistakes. Sometimes we do them more than once. Sometimes I practice and I make a mistake while I practice. And then I go ahead and make the same mistake when I'm doing it on the camera. All right. So these are 6 inches by 8.5. Along the 8.5 inch side, we're going to do some scoring. So let's line it up here on the Versamat. We've got our 8.5 inch side. And we want to score it at 1/2 inch. I know. So weird. Something on this that isn't 1/2 inch. Nope, it's 1/2 inch. We're scoring at 1/2 inch. And that's it. Now we're going to do that same process for all 4 pieces. So there's our first piece, piece number 2, along the 8.5 inch side. We're going to score it at 1/2 inch. There we go. Next piece. You always want to make sure you line everything up. I just noticed my hands are shaking. You'd think I'd had too much coffee today or something, but I haven't had any caffeine at all. Maybe that's the problem. I don't really drink coffee, but I do drink tea, and I do drink Coke. Coke Zero. So there's our 1/2 inch score line there. And then the last piece. So all 4 scored at 1/2 inch. And you're thinking, why are we having 4 pieces when we've only got 2 pages, 2 hinges? Well, that's because you said 8.5 inch side, but looks like on the 16th side. No, so this is the 8.5 inch side. So whenever I say score along the 8.5 inch side, that means if there were 10 different score lines, they would be going along this 8.5 inch side. If we were scoring along the 6 inch side, we would be scoring this way. So, yeah. I know when there's only one of them, it looks like we're scoring along the 6-inch side, but it's going along this way. That question comes up quite a bit. Now, again, score line, we want to fold with the bump side to the inside. We're going to do that on all of them. It's like an assembly line. With the two-toned cardstock, it's easy to tell which side is the back side because I'm using the dark side. The dark side. So the lighter side is the back side, which is the bump side. Alrighty. Now, the reason we have 4 of these and only 2 pages that we're going to create is because these are going to go together in pairs. So take 2 of these and kind of hold them like this. You see how you've got your little tab on one end and your little tab on the other end. We're going to put adhesive on those tabs and then we're going to go like this. And what that's going to do is it's going to make a page that's a big long pocket. Okay? And we're going to then stick them, we're actually going to do it all at the same time, over top of our hinge. So that means that we still have a pocket to add extra stuff in. So that just gives you an idea of where we're going with this. So let's go ahead and add adhesive on all these tabs. I'm going to open them up again. Don't I? No. I was going to say we could miter the edges of these a little bit, but I don't want to. I'm going to leave them exactly as is. As is. Okay, so we're adding adhesive to all of the tabs on all 4 of these. Good morning, Robin. Good morning, good morning. You're at work checking in on your break. Hooray. A nice little crafty break in your day. Good morning, Diane. Late as usual. That's okay. Thank goodness for replay. That's what I always say. All right, next one. All the way across. Yep, I'm glad you checked, Deborah, because sometimes the way people use terminology is different. I know whenever I give measurements, I always do across then down as my measurements. So if it's 6 by 8, then it's 6 inches across and 8 inches from top to bottom. Some people go the other way. Some people flip-flop back and forth, and you have no idea what they're doing. But when I say scoring along a certain length, then that's what it means. It's good to know. Good to know. Keeps from having mistakes. All right, so we've got all those. The next thing we need to do is we need to put some adhesive on our little hinges here. So I've got my cover sideways just because it's going to be easier. So I'm going to lay down my hinges going towards that side. And I'm going to apply some adhesive on both of these. But I'm not taking the backings off yet. Don't take the backings off on your hinges until you get to the point where you need to. All right, and then we're going to fold it this way and apply some adhesive to the other side. We're going to glue these down good. You know what? I'm going to turn my cover around. Keep it from moving around so much. Oops. I'm having, you know how people talk about wardrobe malfunctions? I'm having an adhesive malfunction at the moment. It's doing its own thing. Deborah says, we need replay on this one. Yes, that's the good thing about having this kind of stuff as a video as opposed to a class where you're doing it in real time, is because once you've watched it, you can ask questions. And then when you go to make it, you can play, pause, rewind, play, pause. And that works really well because then you can go at your own pace All right, we're going to turn it back the other way. So we're just putting adhesive on both sides of these hinges. There we go. If I had 1/2 inch adhesive, I would go a little quicker. Alrighty, now this is a process, okay? So bear with me. So I'm going to go to the first hinge here, and I'm going to turn it sideways, and I'm coming to the inside. So think of this as the center fold. I'm going to take the backing off of this, if I can get a hold of it. There we go. The inside of the first hinge. There we go. We can put some liquid glue if we want, just to make sure everything stays where it should be. And then I'm going to bring in my piece of paper for my first piece. This little tab here, I'm going to leave it open, and I'm going to leave the adhesive on there. What I want to do is, you need to remember that that tab is there. We're going to line up our page right in that little crease where this hinge is. We want our hinge to still be able to move. So it doesn't need to be like stuck right in tight, but we just want to get it in that crease, and then all we're going to do is push that hinge up to it. And then we can lay it down and stick it down. So our tab should be hanging out the end here. It's not going to get stuck to that hinge. Okay? So we've got the inside part of our first, why can't I think of the words? Of our first page. The inside piece of our first page. Now, this next step, we're going to have a lot of adhesive doing a lot of things. Okay? So, we're going to take the adhesive off of here. Like so. We're going to take the adhesive off of here. This is going to get, you know, and we're going to take the adhesive off of here. Like that. Okay, and we can add our liquid insurance along our hinge. You don't need a lot, just add a little. We can add some liquid insurance along here. There we go. And on here. I know, we've now got 3 sticky surfaces. So bear with me. We can do it. Okay. We're going to take this and do the same thing. But the tab is now at the bottom, or on the right hand side. We're going to get it lined up with that hinge. Okay. But before we close it on the hinge, making sure that right 1/2 inch tab is sticking out, we're going to fold this tab in and stick it there. Okay. And then we're going to fold this tab in, and then we're going to stick it. And we're going to hope that it all lines up. So you got to kind of hold your breath and hope and hope and hope that it all lines up. And I did actually kind of do a boo-boo on this, because I kind of changed how I was going to do the, now we can lay it down and really stick that hinge up down. I kind of changed how I was going to do these pages last night. And so I really should have done something slightly different, but this is going to work. I don't even know if I'm going to tell you what the different thing is we should have done, but it is what it is. Okay, so now you can see that we've got our first page, and it's a pocket. So we can put extra stuff in there. Okay, now we need to move on to our second one. We can lay this down And you may find that you need to do a little extra crease down on all the edges just to make sure everything's stuck. Okay, so second page. Second verse, same as the first. We're going to take the adhesive off the inside, the center fold of the hinge. We're going to add a little adhesive to the center fold of the hinge. Some liquid insurance. Okay, we're going to take one of the pieces. No, we're not going to take that adhesive off yet. So again, we're going to line it up. This little tab was just hanging out there. The part that we're lining up is the main panel. Lining it up with the hinge, making sure we can move that hinge, and then we're just going to lift the hinge up and then stick it down. So, in case you can't see, a 1/2 inch of that page is now stuck to that hinge. Okay, so our page goes right in to the crease. I don't know if I really showed that the first time around. Okay, and now this is the part where we're taking off all the adhesives. All the adhesives. So the original way I had done this, and I probably should have stuck with it, was that instead of cutting two pieces exactly the same, I cut one that was a 1/2 inch longer. And I did both of the score lines on one side, and that way it wrapped around the hinge, and it was probably better that way. But for cutting them out, for paper usage, this way was better. So we're removing all the adhesives now. All the backings. Sorry, not the adhesive. We want the adhesive to stay. We're removing the backing. And on our second piece, we're going to remove the backing. This is one of those things where it's not hard. You just have to be patient with yourself. We're going to add our liquid. And you just work through the steps. Once you've made one of these, as my mom can tell you, once you've made one, you're going to want to make 50. Or at least if you're my mom, you want to make 50. And down this one. Okay, so again, we're going to have it so that light side is to the inside. We're going to fold in this tab and just stick it down there in that corner. Then we're going to line up our 8 inch long with our 1/2 inch tabs sticking out the top, like that. And then we're going to fold this tab in. I know, because you got to kind of hold everything. It's one of those tricky situations. You got to kind of hold everything. And then we're going to lift it up and stick. And what I do is I start in the bottom corner and I try to get one side kind of stuck down and then move to the other side. I know my mom has made these, and then stick it at the bottom, where she's actually stuck the back and front of the page together first and then slid it onto the hinge, which you can do as well. But sometimes if you don't quite get those creases right, it's a very tight squeeze and then the adhesive is trying to stick before you get the page all the way on. So I kind of like doing it this way because you're kind of wrapping your page around the hinge, and you're less likely to have to rip it off and stick it and rip it off and stick it than doing it this way. The other way is probably neater if you can manage it. All right. So there's our 2 pages. Now, we're not done yet. We have some inserts to go in those pockets. So we have 2 pieces. I'm just using white daisy because I'm thinking this might be a spot where I'm going to add actually a couple of these in there and have it for a journaling, or use this as a cover and staple some papers in there. so that I can keep notes while I'm traveling. So these two pieces are 11 3/4 by 8 inches. I'm going to line it up here on the Versamat. So 11 3/4 by 8 inches. Oh, sorry, that's wrong. Sorry, I jumped ahead. These are 11 1/2. I'm like, why isn't it going to 3/4? 11 1/2 by 7 1/2. 11 1/2 by 7 1/2. And then we're going to score it at 5 3/4. Sorry, I actually changed the measurement on this thing too last night, just to make it easier, because it was scoring on an 1/8. And, you know, so 11 1/2 by 7 1/2. We're going to score both of them at 5 3/4. You don't even have to do the scoring. You could just fold it in half, but sometimes the scoring makes it look a little neater. And then we're going to fold it with the bump side to the inside. Just make sure everything lines up, as I do, because I'm not using a scoreboard. Crease it down. Bring in the other one. Bump side to the inside. Line it up. Fold it down. So you could have anything you want to insert in these pockets. I thought these would be nice. You could use them as covers for writing notes. And then I tuck them in with the open end tucked in, so that you can pull it out with the spine, with the fold. And the way that I have made it is so that it sticks out a little bit, so you can actually grab onto it without having to cut a little notch. Okay, if you make it a little bit smaller than the pocket, you'll have to make some kind of notch or something so you can grab a hold of it to get it out. But these just fit right in like that. And when your album is closed, they're still within the bounds of the cover. They're not hanging out. Okay, so there's those. And then we're going to do one more thing. One more. But wait, there's more. Actually, two more things. We only have 4 days to get the album done. So these are the ones that are 11 3/4 by 8 inches. Shortbread paper. And I'm going to use, well, it doesn't matter, either side, because we're going to see both sides. But we're going to line it up here, 11 3/4. Line it up on the Versamat. We're going to do some scoring along the 11 3/4 inch side. We're going to score it at 1/2 inch. Half an inch, and at 6 1/4. 6 1/4. 6 1/4. So 1/2 inch and 6 1/4. We're going to do the same thing for our second piece. Line it up. So this is the 11 3/4 by 8. Along the 11 3/4 inch side, we're going to score it at 1/2 inch. And 6 1/4. You're going to feel so good about all that we accomplished on this today. And then we want to crease on those score lines. So our 1/2 inch tab. And then on this 6 1/4 inch. And I'm just making sure that my edges line up. You line up your edges, and then start in the center and go out. Grab our other one, do the same thing, going bump side to the inside. And then on our big one, line it up. Score it down, crease it. There we go. Okay, bring your album back in, and these are going on this first page right here. We're going to be adding adhesive to the light side here, this outside tab, and we're going to stick it right along the left edge. So let's open this up a little bit. So we're opening up the tab, adding adhesive. We're going to do the same adhesive technique that we've been doing all along. 2 rows, pull it off. We're going to add some liquid just to make sure nothing disappears later. Okay, and I always find it's easier to glue towards me, so I'm going to turn and I'm going to fold this tab back so that folded edge is my outside edge, and I'm going to line it right up along that page. I'm going to leave a little hair, like a 1/16 of an inch of that toffee showing, just so that I know that my pages can move around a little easier. So when we open that up, we can smoosh it down. Okay, so there's that side. And then we're going to come over to this side, open up our piece, and make sure that tab is open. And the way I scored it, this is the light side. And sticking it down. Almost done for today. And then Deborah can play. Oh, Diane is enjoying this. Awesome. Add some liquid insurance. Oh no, Deborah ran out of note paper. Diane, I've been taking cough syrup a couple times a day. Now, so we're going to fold that tab back to the back side. So we've got our creased edge sticking out. And again, we're going to leave just a tiny little, not even like just a smidgen of that toffee showing. I'm going to stick it down. And now when you look at the inside, the center fold of this page, so we've got these 2 pieces that are going to fold out and out, out and out. Look at that. We've got 5 panels, 6 by 8 pretty much panels to decorate. But here we've got these exposed tabs, and that's not necessarily the prettiest thing. So I'm going to bring in a piece of the pattern paper to stick in there for some fun and color. I'm not doing all the decorating as we go along. We'll see if we have time on day 4 to do a bunch of decorating using this collection. But for now, we're just going to go ahead and stick this piece in. And because this is an album, and it's going to get, you know, open and closed and open and closed, there's no protectors, I'm going to make sure I've got some adhesive across the top and bottom too. Like that. There we go. Oops. Butterfingers. This is the last step. Last one. Did I even tell you what size this piece of paper was? This is 5 7/8. I know. 5 7/8 by 8 inches. The reason it's 5 7/8, you can add some liquid glue if you want, is because I want to leave that smidgen of space so that everything still folds nicely. Okay, if I cut it to exactly 6 inches, we might be interfering with those folds. So 5 7/8, and my advice is to hold it up in the air like this, and get yourself lined up at the bottom, centered in between where those 2 tabs have their crease line. And then you can just do a check. Yep, it's going to be good. Yep, it's going to be good, as long as I don't go crooked. And then you just lay it down. and start sticking from the center to the outside. And there we go. So that's our step for today. We added our pockets to the front inside cover. We added our 2 pages. We added our 2-page inserts. And we added the interactive folds on the front of the first page. So tomorrow we'll continue on. And, when this opens up like this, you also have 2 panels on both sides. Lots of space for photos, photos and journaling and memories of your trip. All right, we will see you again soon. Chat and Craft starts at 11:30. See you then. All right, bye.